We're going to take a quick look at the Frost filter now. And the Frost filter is found in the diffusion category. So let's just apply this to the clip and see what we get. Now what Frost is doing is it's glowing the highlights and reducing contrast whilst also softening facial blemishes and wrinkles. So if we come up and take a closer look at the parameters here, we can break down what it's actually doing. And I'm going to also zoom in onto my viewer a little bit so we can see that a bit clearer. And let's focus first on detail. Now what the detail is doing is it's softening out those areas and reducing the amount of details in the skin. And if we take this up too high, you can see it gives us this sort of painterly look that may or may not be appropriate for what you're going for. In this case, I'm actually going to try and take this a bit more subtle. So I'm going to take the smoothing down just to around about 1.3 here. So that it's actually doing something, but it isn't too obvious what we're doing. Now with the mist, this is where we're going to be glowing out our highlights and actually reducing the contrast areas to fill in some of those shadows and even out the skin a little bit. And you can see if I bring the brightness up, that makes the effect obviously more apparent. Take the brightness quite high and also increase the blur. This increases the range of that softening. So I'm going to take the blur quite high and then bring the brightness up to find an appropriate amount. It's probably going to be around about here actually. Now, if we look at the before and after, you can see we've got quite a large difference, but maybe we're reducing the contrast a little bit too much. And it's here where we can come into the color correct mode and actually start to correct our colors up. So maybe if I want to just bring the saturation down a little bit, bring our contrast up again. So we've still got the effect of the softening on the shadows, but we can maybe bring in some of the contrast back just a wee bit there. And the color correct module we see here works in exactly the same way as any of the other nodes with the color correct on. You'll also see that we are applying this to a matte straight away. So if we look at the matte here, it's going to control our glowing. And with position 100, we're taking all of the highlights. And if we want to instead focus on the shadows, we can bring the position down to 0 instead, softening out all the shadows, making the focus of the softening the shadows instead. I'm going to keep this around about the default area actually. Maybe blur this up just a tiny bit. If I return to my trees now, you'll also see that I can also further enhance that matte. In this case, I've got a little bit of a loose roto shape on the face. I can enhance our matte by plugging that in to the obey matte on our frost controls here. And if I come into the node controls, go to obey matte and say obey, it's now going to limit that effect to our skin. So we zoom out, play this through, and take a quick look at the before and after. We've successfully used the Frost filter to just soften out the skin a little bit without making it too obvious what we've done. And that is a quick look at the Frost filter.